everyone, Combo here, back with another Empires and Puzzles video, and today I am going to go through my ranking from worst to first of the new updated July 2025 Fated Summons that just got leaked out last week. These are set to update on July 21st, and if you are not aware, the counter or tracker that you have for the summons that you do does carry over. So if you're at 90 out of 100 or 99 out of 100, or even if you're at 100 out of 100, that will carry over into the next Fated Summon. So do not feel like you have to pick somebody from the current list. If you want to wait until July 21st so that you can grab one of these heroes on day one when the new list is available, then you can certainly do that. And before we get into that ranking, if you do enjoy this video or find it helpful, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, and turn that notification bell on so you can be alerted of when I drop new content. And if you really love my videos, consider supporting my channel by becoming a member. If you click the join button next to where it says subscribed, you can get some additional information on the perks of becoming a member, including early access to videos like this, some cool avatars, one-on-one hero advice from me on the line app, and some other cool perks as well. So for this round of Fated Summons, we have 5 heroes from the Musketeer family, 5 heroes from the Tower of Magic family, 5 heroes from the Season 4 Underwild family, and 5 old heroes of the month. There are 5 heroes in the Fated Summon that have a costume available in the game, but you are not going to get that costume when you choose that hero in the Fated Summon. So I want to make sure that you are aware of that. I am going to show you the stats of all these heroes at their max capacity, so to speak. So double limit broken with masterclass emblems and with the costume bonus, just so that you can see what their potential is going to be if you do decide to get their costume at the Outfitter event if it's available, which I will also detail for each of those 5 heroes who have a costume, which are pretty much all of the Season 4 Underwild heroes. Those are the only ones at this point right now in the game that have a costume available. There are costumes being released for the Tower of Magic heroes, and there's actually a new costume that's supposed to be coming out later this week for one of the heroes, which I'll go over when we get to her. And lastly, before we get into the ranking, I do need to give a disclaimer that this is the list of heroes that is currently scheduled to come into the game. The day this video is going to go live is on July 2nd, which is 19 days before Fated Summons come out. So it is possible that Empires and Puzzles could change the heroes that are coming out, but we have gotten this list historically around the same time, and it hasn't changed the last few times that I'm aware of. So I do fully expect this list of 20 heroes to be released in Fated Summons on July 21st. All right, without further ado, let's get into the rankings, starting out at number 20, or worst on my list. This is going to come to no surprise to anybody. We've got Exer from the Underwild family, and this is honestly such a shame because she's one of the heroes with a costume, which means her stats are really not terrible, but her special is close to useless, honestly. She is easily a hero that if you were to pull, you were to either feed it to somebody else or just save it for the next soul exchange event if you don't need the roster space. She does have a costume, and even that is not available in the Outfitter event until March 26th of 2026. So you're going to be getting a hero with crappy stats, a crappy special. This should definitely be the very last hero that you choose in Fated Summon. So what makes her so bad, you ask? Well, her special gives all enemies 237 water damage and an increase of 33 damage per ice shield on the board over 3 turns, up to 633 damage. This effect is uncleansable for all fire enemies, and then all ice enemies are immune to this attack. That is the base level special for her. You can see the card that I have here shown says 1185 damage over 3 turns. That's because it's double limit broken with the masterclass emblem. So the higher attack stat that she has, the higher the water damage is going to be. But there's nothing else to her special. Enemies are just going to get up to a potential of maybe 400 water damage every single turn. Enough about the worst hero in this Fated Summon list. Let's go to number 19, which is not much better in my opinion. And next on this list is going to be Luke Hyde. He is also from the Season 4 Underwild family, also has a costume, and that is also still not yet available in the Outfitter event and will not be until February 29th of 2026. As you can see, he has decent stats, but also his special is really not that great. He's also slow mana speed, and for his special, he casts full removal on himself. Full removal removes all status effects, stacks, growth, and wither effects, removes even status effects and stacks that are otherwise undispellable or uncleansable. The caster then goes into ghost form for 4 turns. While in ghost form, the caster cannot gain mana and cannot be healed by special skills, and is also immune to normal attacks and special attacks. He would also be immune to status effects and stacks, immune to new growth effects and wither effects as well. While in the ghost form, all allies except the caster have plus 64% defense. While in ghost form, all allies except the caster regenerate 180 boosted health every turn. Boosted health can exceed max HP. So he basically removes everything from himself, goes into ghost form for 4 turns, and then all of your allies get plus 64% defense and 180 boosted health every turn for 4 turns. 180 boosted health is pretty much nothing nowadays when you consider the fact that heroes have up to around 4,000 or 4,500 health with a matching legendary troop. The increased defense is pretty cool, I guess, but at slow mana speed, I honestly do not think that a hero like that is worth leveling up, in my personal opinion. It's also kind of a shame that he's kind of such a crappy card considering his art is really cool. Even Exer, who we just looked at as well, a lot of these Season 4 Underwild heroes do have some pretty cool art. Moving on to number 18, we are gonna go to a hero from the Tower of Magic family, and that is gonna be Telonius. Telonius does not yet have a costume, and I don't know if one is in beta at this point right now, but a lot of the Tower of Magic heroes are getting costumes, so he may eventually get one. And if he does, he actually could be relevant again because his special isn't bad, but I don't think it's enough. And I feel like if he were to get a costume, they would probably increase the damage from the ailment that he gives enemies. And for his special, so those magic heroes have 2 different charges. The first one comes in at about 5 tiles. The second one comes in at around 12 to 13 tiles, depending on the troop that you have on him. The first charge, the 5 tile one, gives the target and nearby enemies plus 50% increased damage from status ailments for 3 turns, and then the target and nearby enemies receive 357 poison damage over 3 turns. For me, it's really that 357 poison damage over 3 turns because you're basically looking at 119 poison damage each turn for 3 turns, which is literally nothing. They are going to get plus 50% increased damage from those, so you'd be looking at maybe 170 or 180 poison damage each turn. Again, that's only for 3 turns. That is not a lot. If he does get a costume, I'm really hoping that they really increase that to like 1,500 poison damage or maybe even 2,000 poison damage, something to make him relevant, because that plus 50% increased damage definitely could become a factor with that, and if you have any other ailment inflicting heroes. His second mana charge, which again comes at around 12 or 13 tiles, I do not like at all because I do not like heroes who only heal themselves plus 2 others, and he's not going to be a defensive type of hero, so you're going to have him on offense and you're not going to know which heroes you're going to need to heal, obviously. So that second charge does recover 75% health for the caster and nearby allies, so that is a lot, but again, you may not need it. And then the second part of his special is the caster and nearby allies are immune to damage from status ailments for 5 turns. So definitely a very specific niche type of hero. Honestly, I'm not really a fan. Or if he came out with a costume that just had straight up plus 50% increased damage in general and not necessarily from ailments, that would make him probably top of this list, honestly. Here's to hoping that Telonius gets a costume and that SG really revamps that special into something more useful. Moving on to number 17, we're going to go to our first hero of the month on this list, and that's going to be Euthan. Euthan is very fast mana speed, deals 150% damage to the target, which is only 1 target. The target and nearby enemies, though, receive 711 poison damage over 3 turns. The caster absorbs 100% of the dealt poison damage as health, and then gives an elemental link, which gives plus 10% mana generation for all dark allies for 4 turns. This effect cannot be dispelled. So he only deals 150% damage to 1, and then gives the poison damage to 3. And then as you can see here from this card, it looks like the poison damage can get up to around 846 over 3 turns. So you're looking at about 282 2 poison damage potentially, maybe a little bit more depending on the talent path. Euthan was honestly pretty decent when he first came out, but we also did not have heroes who had as high of health as they do now, so that poison damage really isn't that big of a factor unless if you have a hero like Telonius that you could pair him with to make the poison damage 50% more. But even with that, honestly, I don't think Euthan is that great of a hero in my opinion. Moving on to number 16, this is a hero who I had higher up on this list, honestly, and she just kept on falling down and down and down. I thought she was better than she actually is, and I started looking at her card a little bit more and doing my rankings with the other heroes, and I probably changed this list around I don't know how many times, and Vashali ended up falling at number 16. I do like that she is a cleanser in only 5 tiles, but the rest of her special and even that second charge, which comes at that 12 or 13 tile mark, is not that great and definitely not worth waiting those amount of tiles in my opinion. For her first charge, which comes at about 5 tiles, all allies regenerate 594 health over 3 turns. All allies get plus 30% attack for 3 turns, and she cleanses status ailments from all allies. The second charge, which again comes at around 12 or 13 tiles depending on your troops, she dispels buffs from all enemies. All enemies receive 1290 sand damage over 5 turns. All enemies get minus 45% attack for 5 turns. Vashali is another one that if a costume were to come out a little revamped, especially with that first part of her first special where all allies regenerate 594 health over 3 turns, that's only like 198 health every turn for 3 turns, which is not a lot. That really needs to either be a percentage heal or a significantly higher health over time, or maybe boosted health or something like that, but 594 health over 3 turns is not going to do it in my opinion nowadays. The attack up is kind of nice, but I feel like that should be a little bit higher. I mean, again, we are talking about a hero that can get a special in just 5 tiles. I do love the fact that she's a cleanser in 5 tiles. Hopefully she gets a costume, and hopefully that costume gets revamped, like I said. Moving on to number 15, I have Scarramar. Scarramar was a hero of the month a couple years ago. He is average mana speed, and for his special, he deals 315% damage to the target and nearby enemies, reduces the mana of the target and nearby enemies by 20%. The target and nearby enemies get minus 30% accuracy for 4 turns. Chance to miss applies to offensive special skills as well, and then gives an elemental link which gives plus 10% mana generation for all fire allies for 4 turns. This effect cannot be dispelled. Obviously his stats are very outdated, but I do love heroes that reduce the mana of enemies, and he reduces mana of 3 by 20%, has a decent hit 3 percentage of 315%, also gives those 3 enemies minus 30% accuracy for 4 turns. Scarramar is a decent hero if you need a red attacker, but I definitely think there are better options. Next up at number 14, I've got Iithar. She is also a hero of the month from 2023, a couple years ago. She is definitely a useful and interesting support hero. She has very fast mana speed, and for her special, she steals all dispellable buffs from the target and randomly distributes them on allies. She steals 35% of the mana from the target and distributes it to allies. All allies get plus 35% attack for 2 turns, and then she gives an elemental link which gives plus 10% mana generation for all holy allies for 4 turns. This effect cannot be dispelled. The big things that I like Iithar for are that second part where she steals 35% of the mana from the target and distributes that to allies, and then the plus 35% attack for 2 turns. I think she's a pretty decent support hero, and while I don't have Iithar, I do have a member in my alliance whose roster has been growing quite a bit, and they were using Iithar as one of their older heroes for a little while, and I was helping them build teams for wars, and she was always extremely helpful when doing cleans because you could just ghost 3 yellow tiles and get her special right away, and then be able to steal mana from your enemies and just give that back to your own allies so that they could use their specials. And she's giving them that plus 35% attack up. Stealing buffs can be very useful, especially for taunt heroes or any of those other new quirky buffs that heroes give. But Iithar can definitely be useful when used the right way. Coming in at number 13, I've got Camila from the Tower of Magic family. I feel like I'm saying this for all of the Tower of Magic heroes, but if she were to get a costume and if they were to revamp that a little bit, she could be really good in my opinion. For her first charge that comes in at about 5 tiles, she boosts health of all allies by 400. Boosted health can exceed max health. All allies get plus 40% defense against special skills for 3 turns. Her second charge, which comes at about 12 or 13 tiles, reduces the max health of all enemies by 800. All boosted health is removed. Max health cannot get lower than 30% of the original max health. All enemies get minus 54% defense against special skills for 5 turns. So I think she's a decent support hero. I do again like the fact that she gets her special in just 5 tiles, so she can boost health by 400 and give that defense up against special skills for 3 turns as well. And when you get her special, and if you've got a bunch of other blue tiles and you don't need to heal with her, then you could also save her special and reduce the max health of all your enemies, plus give them minus 54% defense against special skills. If you can get that off before some other specials, then you're going to be doing a lot of damage and maybe even winning the battle just from that cycle of specials. Next up at number 12, I've got Nadesta or Nadesta. Not sure exactly how to pronounce that one, but she is somebody who I honestly wasn't really sure where to put on this list, but I feel like number 12 is probably around where she belongs, and she is actually the hero who is scheduled to get a costume later this week. I believe the Tower of Magic portal and event is coming back on July 5th, and that's when it's scheduled to come in the game with the costume. Obviously, it's not going to be available in the Outfitter event for another 18 months, but the fact that she's getting a costume is just something to keep into consideration for her. For her first charge of her special, the target and nearby enemies receive 156 burn damage over 2 turns. If the caster dies during the next 2 turns, they are resurrected in the beginning of their next turn with 32% health. All status effects are removed when the caster dies. I'm not really a fan of that first charge, honestly, especially with that burn damage being so low. The self-resurrection, if she dies in the next 2 turns, could be useful depending on the situation of the battle, but the second mana charge is why I have her so high on this list. So the second charge is each fallen ally has a 50% chance to get revived with 40% health. All allies regenerate 714 health over 3 turns. All allies reduce all received damage by minus 50% for 3 turns. So 50% chance to revive is pretty good, and 40% health is honestly pretty high for a reviver. The heal over time is not great. The reduced received damage by minus 50% for 3 turns is very good though. Her costume has not yet come out, like I said, but the beta version is supposed to be 55% chance to revive with 44% health. The heal over time got increased slightly to 795 health over 3 turns, which really isn't that great, but the reduced received damage was minus 60% for 3 turns, so that got increased by 10%, which is nice. Again, that is just the beta version. That could definitely change, but I know some people were excited to get a red reviver, so if that is something that interests you, then she could be a good option for you at number 12. At number 11, I've got another fire hero with Ocaros from the Season 4 Underwild family. He does have a costume, and it is already available in the Outfitter event, so that is definitely worth noting, and one of the reasons why I have him so high on the list. As you can see, he's got pretty decent stats at a total individual power of 1306, and for his special, he's going to deal 180% damage to all enemies, deals an additional 20% damage per each fire shield on the board, up to 340% in total. All enemies get minus 24% attack for 3 turns. He is average speed, and if you do have his costume, he does get an extra passive with increased damage against boosted health. After this character casts their special skill, all allies' normal attacks and special skills deal plus 70% damage against targets with boosted health for 4 turns. That is something specific to the Underwild family members who have a costume and have attacking type of specials. The defensive or support type of Season 4 Underwild costumes have a different special. It's 10% boosted health, I think they gain right away. We're going to go over one of those types of heroes actually in a little bit, but Ocaros is decent. Obviously, if you are a top level player, you're not going to be leveling many of these faded summons, if any, and Ocaros is definitely not going to be one of those. But if you are a newer player, lower level player, even a lower mid-level-ish player, Ocaros could be a decent option. He does deal a decent amount of damage if you have enough fire shields on the board, but the main main reason I have him this high on the list, honestly, is because his stats are pretty decent with the costume bonus, and he has the potential to deal a decent amount of damage if you use him correctly with the amount of fire shields on the board. Coming in at number 10, I've got Constance from the Musketeer family. She's actually the first Musketeer that we're gonna review on this list. She is fast mana speed and deals 230% damage to all enemies. All allies get plus 45% chance to dodge special skills for 3 turns. Each dodge damages the attacker for 100 damage. She was actually in the Soul Exchange event a couple rounds ago, I think in February 2025 maybe, and I want to say she was a 15 soul option at that time, maybe even 20 honestly. I do wish that she had a little bit more to her special, but the dodge effect could definitely be very useful against some of those high attacking specials. All of the Musketeers also have a pretty cool passive where they have a chance to cover a random ally for 3 turns when the character casts their special skill, and while in cover, the other ally does not take any damage from special skills or normal attacks, and this character, so the Musketeer that's covering, takes either 60, 50, or 40% of the damage that would be received by the character in cover. The percentage of damage that is received is dependent on if you have 1, 2, or 3 Musketeers on your team. So in most cases, it's probably just going to be that 60% of the damage, but that's still a pretty low amount compared to the original damage that would have been taken. So if you were to take Constance or any of these other Musketeers, then you want to take that into consideration because they could be taking damage for somebody else. So that could be a reason to go the defense and health path depending on how you are going to be using those heroes. Moving on to number 9, I've got Hero of the Month, Arix. Arix is slow mana speed. She's going to deal 410% damage to the target. The attack chains through all enemies who are adjacent to any hit enemy. So that's going to be similar to the Khufu effect. The target receives 374 frost damage over 2 turns, and then she gives an elemental link which gives plus 10% mana generation for all ice allies for 4 turns. This effect cannot be dispelled. Obviously, she's going to be ideal more in a rush setting because of the fact that she's slow mana speed, but depending on your roster, she does do quite a bit of damage, so she could be useful for you as well on offense in any other type of setting as well, again, depending on your roster. It does show here on the card as far as the frost damage as being 576 frost damage over 2 turns. Again, similar to some other heroes, that's going to be because of the fact that this is limit broken and it has emblems. The base level was the number I gave before, but she has the ability to get up to that 576 frost damage over 2 turns. Moving on to number 8, we've got another Hero of the Month, Sinissia. Sinissia is average mana speed. She deals 270% damage to all enemies. All enemies get minus 60% decrease of any healing received for 3 turns. All enemies receive 414 bleed damage over 2 turns. Against ice characters, this status effect becomes uncleansable and lasts 2 turns longer. Elemental Link gives a plus 10% mana generation for all nature allies for 4 turns. This effect cannot be dispelled. I actually used Sinissia for quite some time when she first came out. I single limit broke her. Obviously, I did not have as advanced of a roster as I do now, and obviously her stats are quite outdated, but she was very useful. She had a decent damage attack to all for an average speed hero. The bleed damage was definitely effective and can get higher, obviously, depending if you limit break and add talents to her. And then the minus 60% decrease healing for all enemies for 3 turns is extremely useful in my opinion. And a special like that has that type of characteristic is going to have a lot more longevity in the game, which is one of the reasons I have her so high on this list because of that decreased healing. She also has a very interesting passive where she gets an increased attack for each non-nature enemies. So at the start of the battle, this character's attack is increased by 5% for each enemy that is not of the nature element. So if you are going up against a team that has no nature heroes, you're going to get plus 25% attack already at the very beginning of the battle. And it sounds like, based off of how I'm reading it, that should be for the entire war mat. Moving on to number 7, we have another member of the Musketeer family and the last nature hero on this list, and that's going to be Athos. He is very fast mana speed. He destroys all minions from the target. This effect damages mega minions. He is then going to deal 470% damage to the target. The caster gets 20% mana for each destroyed minion. The attack bypasses defensive buffs. This includes counterattacks, and then the caster regenerates 306 health over 2 turns. Very fast mana speed, bypasses defensive buffs, destroys minions or damages mega minions, and then 470% damage to the target after that. I know his stats are outdated, but very fast mana speed with all of that is definitely very good in my opinion. Athos at 7 and Sinissia at 8 was definitely one that I kind of struggled with. I felt like for the most part, Athos would be more useful being very fast mana speed, damaging mega minions, and then doing that 470% damage to the target on top of it. So it was a little bit more of an immediate impact, where Sinissia really needs the couple turns for the bleed damage, and then the effect of minus 60% for healing for 3 turns. She needs all of that to kind of really make her effective, because the 240% damage to all really doesn't do a lot of damage to everybody. So I felt like Athos could be more impactful even though he was only attacking 1. But for some people, Sinissia definitely could be more useful, so keep that in mind. Moving on to number 6, I've got the last hero from the Tower of Magic family. We've got Becky. She's actually only our second dark hero in this ranking also, so that means we have 3 dark heroes in the top 6. And she's definitely a hero I'm not a huge fan of her first charge for, but her second charge is very good. Her first charge, though, deals 350% damage to the target each time the target activates their special skill during 3 turns. The mana of all other enemies is reduced by minus 15%. And then her second charge, she increases the mana of all allies by 10%. For the next 5 turns, this character deals 250% damage to all enemies each time any other ally casts their special skill. It does say damage is dealt on the first special skill case of each character per turn. That does not mean that it only happens once if you were to fire all 5 specials at the same time. That just means that if a hero were to happen to fire their special multiple times in the same turn, Becky's not going to go off more than 1 time for each of those specials from the same character. So she does have the ability to deal 1,000% damage to everybody if you were to fire all 5 specials in the same turn. So her special is very similar to a Guardian Hippo, obviously, but at slower mana speed. But definitely could be a very fun hero to use on offense, in my opinion. Also worth noting that these magic heroes do have some pretty cool passives, and hers is that when this character casts their special skill, they have a 50% chance to recover 15% health for all allies. If the special skill is fully charged, so at that ×2 charge, which is really what you would want to use her for, then the chance is 100%. So you can basically add 15% healing to all allies with that second charge as well. Coming in at number 5, we have our last ice hero, Porthos from the Musketeer family. Porthos is slow mana speed. He deals 380% damage to all enemies. He alters the power of all ice shields on the board. When an attacking hero casts a special, the shields become enhanced with plus 74% attack. When a defending hero casts a special, the shields become weakened with minus 67% attack. Deals extra damage against fire, and the caster regenerates 918 health over 6 turns. He also has the same family bonus or passive as the other Musketeers we talked about, Athos and Constance with the cover. I have Porthos max. I don't use him quite as often as I used to, obviously because he's a little outdated and I have a pretty advanced roster, but he can definitely still be very useful for Titans, for Mythic Titans, in Rush War. And if you have a lower level roster, Porthos could still be extremely useful for you. He's a hard hitter, has a high percentage of attack. The plus 74% attack on the ice shield is no joke also once you get that activated. Definitely a solid hero, and that is why he cracked the top 5. Coming in at number 4, I've got Zenfold from the Season 4 Underwild family. He does have a costume in the game, and it is already available in the Outfitter event, so that is definitely something worth taking into consideration, and one of the reasons why I have him so high on the list. He is average mana speed. He recovers 40% health for all allies. He alters the power of all dark shields on the board. When an attacking hero casts a special, the enhanced shields give 37% more mana. When a defending hero casts the special, the shields become weakened and give minus 30% less mana. He is then going to increase the mana of all allies by 10%. As a reminder, I do have stats shown here with the costume bonus, but you do not get the costume when you choose him in Fated Summon. You would have to have it already, or you can get it in the Outfitter event, which actually is going to be coming about a week after the Fated Summons refresh. So you could grab Zenfold if you wanted a solid healer and get his costume from the Outfitter event to increase his stats. He is one of the few heroes that I actually really like the regular version over the costume. His costume is a heal over time of 1060 over 4 turns, which is really not a lot. It's a slow heal. And I like that his base version gives 10% mana to everybody, which his costume does not. You still want the costume to increase the stats of this version, but when you add emblems to him, you can do it for this main version because that's the one that I would recommend using. Also worth noting that the Season 4 Underwild heroes do get a passive when you get their costume, or an additional passive rather. It's very useful, and for him, it's when this character casts their special skill, they boost the health of all allies by 10%. So he's going to heal everybody for 40% and then boost health on top of that by 10%. So personally, if you are even a mid-level player, I feel like Zenfold is a solid healer in my opinion. You definitely do need the costume for him to make him relevant though, in my opinion. Moving on to number 3, we've got Cardinal Richelieu. Cardinal is going to be the last of our fire heroes. Cardinal is average mana speed and deals 330% damage to all enemies, summons a Spy Fiend for all enemies, where the Fiend damages the enemy with 45% attack every turn. The Spy Fiend absorbs healing and disappears when it has absorbed health equal to 30% of the target's max health. At the start of each turn, the Spy Fiend steals one of its target's dispellable buffs and gives it to one character on the opposite team. Obviously, you do not want to use Cardinal against any Mega Minion heroes because the Fiends are not going to be as useful. Cardinal was another hero that was recently in the Soul Exchange event, I think this past time around actually, for 10 souls, and I thought they were a solid value pick at that Soul Exchange. So to have them in this Fated Summon, personally, I think is really good, especially if you like Fiend Summoners, and if you have any other Fiend Summoners to pair with, then that's going to be even better. All right, we are down to our final 2 heroes in this Fated Summon ranking list, and these next 2 heroes are heroes that I am going to be leveling up myself once I get them. Maybe not right away, but I definitely will be leveling them up. Both of them have very specific uses and will help me with specific aspects of the game, and I think that they could really help just about anybody, no matter what your skill level or your roster is. And coming in at number 2, I've got Zaka. He is a holy hero from the Season 4 Underwild family. He does have a costume in the game, but it's not yet available in the Outfitter event. It won't be eligible for the Outfitter until around December 20th of 2025. I don't think that you need his costume to make him relevant because he's most useful for Titans. You could use him for wars and stuff like that also depending on your roster, but he's going to be most useful for Titans. I'm going to go over a special in a moment, but before I do, with the current schedule of the Outfitter event, with it coming around every 3 months, we have it coming at the end of this month in July, which means it should be coming back in October and then probably again in January. So you could get his costume in the January Outfitter event if you wanted to, and honestly, I probably will be doing that myself. I know that's a long ways to plan out, but it will be a quick, easy upgrade for him once I get that costume. Again, these stats shown here are with the costume bonus, so getting him from the Fated Summon, you will not get that costume bonus. I wanted to show you what his stats would look like with the costume bonus. As far as his special, he is fast mana speed, deals 300% damage to the target, deals 450% damage to a random different enemy, deals extra damage if the target is dark. The target of the second hit gets minus 56% defense for 3 turns. So he is going to be most useful for me for Titans and Mythic Titans. By using him against a Titan or Mythic Titan, you basically hit him for 300% damage and then 450% damage right away, and if it's a Dark Titan or Mythic Titan, that second hit deals extra damage. And then the Titan is going to get minus 56% defense for 3 turns. So I can stop using the costume version of Vivica for my Titans to get the defense down, which I hate doing because she's slow mana speed. She doesn't have any attack for her special. Zaka is going to be a much better option in my opinion. And I've talked about him obviously for Titans and Mythic Titans primarily because I feel like that's where he is most useful. But depending on your roster, you could definitely use him in wars as well, especially once you're able to eventually get his costume. I would not miss miss out on grabbing him in the Fated Summon, so long as you get at least a couple Fated Summons during this cycle. Because I don't think that you want to miss out on the number one option I have on my Fated Summon ranking list, and that is going to be Aramus from the Musketeer family. Like many heroes on this list, his stats are outdated, but his special is very useful. He is average mana speed, and then he's going to deal 375% damage to the target and nearby enemies, boosts all allies' health by 30% of the damage dealt. All allies are immune to new status ailments for 3 turns. This effect cannot be dispelled, and then the caster gets plus 30% defense for 3 turns. It's that third part of his special where it says all allies are immune to new status ailments for 3 turns, and that it cannot be dispelled, which means he can be used against Bernadette, and the first part of Bernadette's special where she dispels a buff from all enemies is not going to work against Aramus and your other allies because of the fact that it cannot be dispelled. So your allies will get the damage from her special, but you will not get turned into paintings. Just using Aramus against Bernadette is not going to guarantee you a win or guarantee that your special is going to go off before her. I always recommend to people to have 3 different colors of counters going up against Bernadette. So Aramus is just somebody to add to the toolbox of the arsenal against Bernadette. I am pretty certain that any high level player is going to choose Aramus first from this Fated Summons list. As far as if they level Aramus up or not, they've probably already got 1 or 2 maybe. It all depends on how many counters for Bernadette they have. And as far as if you're going to level them up, you have to take a look at your roster and see if Aramus is worth it for you. On top of that specific niche thing against Bernadette, he is still very useful with that 375% damage to 3 enemies, and then all of your allies getting that boosted health of 30% of the damage dealt. When you do your talent path for him, you do want to take that into consideration. If you're going to be using him primarily as a damage dealer, then you are going to want to go attack, which is also going to increase the amount of health that all of your allies get from that damage dealt. So I know a lot of people gave some negative feedback about this Fated Summon list, but honestly, I think that this Fated Summon list is better than the last one. I don't think that these are all great heroes and you should level them all up. Am I going to level all of them up? Absolutely not. I am going to level up Aramus eventually and then probably Zakana eventually. As far as any of the other ones, they're not going to be useful for me because they're not strong enough for wars and they don't have another specific aspect of the game that they would be useful for. Maybe Becky, because of that second part of her charge, could be useful for events and challenge events and towers and stuff like that. So that is a possibility. But as far as some of those other heroes, Zenfold, I think, is a strong healer. Cardinal Richelieu, I think, is a very good attacker with those fiends as well. Porthos is an extremely strong attacker and gives those ice shields plus 74% attack, which is crazy high. Those top 5, I think, are the cream of the crop, so to speak, in this Fated Summon list, but there are also some other useful ones as well. And as a reminder, I did mention this at the very beginning of the video, but in case if you missed it, your current Fated Summon tracker does carry over. So do not feel like you're forced to pick somebody from the current Fated Summon list. If there's somebody that you really want from this new list that comes out on July 21st, save it. Your tracker carries over. Even if it's at 100 out of 100, it will still stay that on July 21st, and you can grab any of these heroes on day 1 of the new Fated Summon list if you want to. Personally, I am probably going to be doing that and grabbing Aramus on day 1, but let me know what you all think of this Fated Summon ranking list, and let me know who you're going to be grabbing first from this list when it comes out. And that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy it or found it helpful, and if you did, hit that like button, make sure you're subbed to my channel, and I'll catch you guys next time.